Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today for this gathering of citizen and council. We pray, Lord, for your guidance and safety in our town. We pray, Lord, for the protection of the people that keep us running, our clerk's office and our maintenance crews, and please protect our fire department and our police department as well. We pray, Lord, that you give us the wisdom to guide us into the future and the determination to see it through. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Forget the clerk to call roll call, please.
Mayor Grant,
Present.
Mrs. DeLong,
Present.
Mr. Moss,
Present.
Mr. Voorhees,
Present.
Mrs. Carnahan,
Present.
Mr. Roderick,
Present.
Attorney Ingrid Bars,
Present.
Deputy Mickey Hubbard, present. The Junior Counsel, Eli French,
Present.
Natalie Jean,
Present.
Jocelyn Barnett, Grace Hiller,
Present.
Caden Ashley, Addison Hill.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move forward. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting? Does everybody have a chance to look at those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for 6/10/24 as written.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Citizens petitions, questions, and concerns. I need you to state your name if you've got something to bring up, and we'll give you about 3 minutes to speak.
I have one. My name is Denise Routson, as you all know. I come before you because I'm concerned about the Fountain County ambulance and the fact that they're wanting the city to pay for rent. Okay, so before I get started, I've got some information to pass around. Some for you as well. This shows the Fountain County EMS budget. Okay, with their budget, they have a budget of $1,534,000 or $34,274 for 2023. It went up by a total of $399,032 for 2024. So that takes that to $1,933 and $3.06. Sorry. With that type of budget, I ask, why does a business need the city to pay rent? Okay. While doing the research, I found that they are not a 501c3. They are a government-ran business. They are no different than Hoosier Lottery. Hoosier Lottery, our taxes does not pay for. We pay for it if we want to buy a ticket. That is how that is ran. Government businesses do not give discounts of any type. They pay taxes just like everybody else. Scott, would you like it if the city of Attica paid your mortgage or rent for your coffee house?
No, I wouldn't allow it, but
Well,
I like it.
I understand that, but the point is, Kaylee, your husband has a business that you run from your home. Same thing, the city would not pay for it. Why are we considering paying for Fountain County EMS? We are already paying taxes to Fountain County. That is shown with their budget. Okay, we already pay them. The first row in there is their published budget. The second is the published per capita, which means per person in the county. The second one is what was the third is what was adopted, and the fourth is per capita. So per person, we're paying $14.54 each year for the service. Now, I know that does not come out to a whole lot, but when you look at, that was based on the budget of $280,798,000. Okay, they have over $1.5 million budget on 2023, almost $2 million for 2024. Please explain why we are even considering this. As taxpayers, I'm extremely concerned because we would be paying 3 times. We'd be paying for Fountain County taxes, we'd be paying for our Attica taxes, and now when they come pick us up, we pay them there as well. Why would any business consider paying anyone 3 times? I want to put my objection in on that at this moment.
Point taken.
Mayor, can I have a minute just for my
Sure.
comments?
Sure.
Just so you know, we are having another meeting with Fountain County Ambulance. And so everyone knows, for I don't know how many years, we provided full utilities, full everything for them to be down here on the other side of the tracks. We're guaranteed one ambulance here, and at times we don't have that ambulance. If we were to consider something, it's not going to be much more the number that's in play than what we've already paid currently or have been paying. And it would be a guarantee of a second ambulance here at all times to keep our community safe and make those runs. So that's why we're considering it and getting them on the other side of the track in adequate facilities.
They have to move either way. They're not gonna leave Attica just because they don't get the rent from the city of Attica. They're not gonna leave. We're too much of a moneymaker for them. We're over 50% of the rents. They're not leaving.
Is there something here that I'm not seeing, Denise?
Yeah, the fact that they have.
No.
But-
Is there something besides this that I'm not seeing that's driving this objection?
Yes, it's called
What am I
taxpayers.
missing?
It's called tax money and it being spent wisely. The state, the county, everybody is just blowing money like it's water.
I know I've already told you this, and I'm
And
gonna
it's
tell you
not.
again in a public meeting. I spent $12,000 just last week on fireworks. Did that $12,000 make anybody's life safer here in Attica? Did anybody object to me spending $12,000 for fireworks, for entertainment, for the city? It was a great thing. Everybody enjoyed it. But did it make anybody safer?
It did not.
Is
But
this going to make anybody safer? Is it
No,
going to
because they
make
have to
them
be
safer
getting
by
away.
moving the ambulance to this side of the tracks and having a second ambulance here in case it's needed? I believe it is. That is why I've supported this all along. Like I said, you can sit and argue all day whether we're paying 3 times or whether we're not paying 3 times or whether or not they're moving or not. That's irrelevant to me. If it makes the people in Attica safer, then I'm all for it.
my problem is that they're
I don't
sitting
get
on
a
almost
vote.
$2 million and yet they're asking us when they're.
You
in
know what a new
business.
ambulance costs? Have you priced out new ambulances?
I know they're expensive.
They're close to $1 million.
I understand that.
They're getting 3 right now. They're getting 3 brand new ones.
So if they can afford 3 brand new ones, why are we paying the rent?
That's how they
Why are
can
we
afford 3
considering
new
it?
ones. I don't know.
But I was opposed as well. And then I got to really thinking about it and kind of going along with Scott says, we are currently paying, I don't remember exactly what you said, depending on utilities, anywhere $700, $800, $900 a month in
And
utilities
that's
down
before
there.
we spend anything on upkeep.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you get your bill yet from,
I did. It was $850.
so that was just for 1 month, an additional $850. So the only reason why I feel a little bit better about it was we were already paying X amount of dollars down there. My thought is, I don't know what we would do with that building anyways, after, like, if we got them moved. It's not, I mean, over the upkeep and what we were already paying, we weren't gonna be paying any more out of pocket than what we already were paying, I
Okay,
guess.
my question for that though is why were we paying for it? Why weren't they paying rent and paying for it
That
themselves?
that was a great question too. This
Why
was
were they not
something,
doing that?
this was something that was put into place
Many
many years
But
ago.
2 wrongs don't make a right. So just because that was wrong, that they should have been paying rent being a business, does not mean that we should be paying rent up there because that's 2 wrongs. That does not equal a right.
And I totally get it. I don't, my only thing that makes me feel better about it, because I agree, everything that you're saying makes sense. The only thing that makes me feel better is that moving them to this side services all of us better. That's the only thing in the grand scheme of things that I'm looking at. And I think about my parents, my grandma, like,
Okay, look at a one-year contract or a 6-month contract, not
and
forever.
I don't think that's,
So we don't stay in the weeds. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Just so you know, the money that we're talking about, the difference between what we're already been paying, that was agreed to by a previous mayor many years ago. We're talking about an amount of $5,400 a year difference of what we've been paying right now. To have a
That
second,
does not
to have
make
a
right.
guaranteed second ambulance dedicated to Attica.
They were supposed to have a second ambulance all along and they never have.
Okay, well, we're gonna meet with them again and we are We will
And this
decide
isn't
what
li-
we think's best for the community, but we can't
Yeah.
keep doing this. We get a lot of stuff to cover tonight.
And I will say too, Denise, it isn't just, and tell me if I'm wrong, this isn't just an us decision. Because even though, let's say I am 100% for it, and everybody up here is 100% for it, even though we might say yes, this isn't up to just us.
The county commissioners and the county council have to agree as well.
Yes, so it's not, I'm just saying, like, it's not, this isn't like a done deal, even if somebody said, we all said yes, it's not a done deal.
It's a big chunk out of their budget that they've not had to pay previously in order to do this. And yes, we cover 1/3 of their area, and we do have a lot of runs, so.
Okay,
Real quick comment, Tim Kemple. I agree with what we're trying to do to get it on that side of the tracks. My only concern is this, are we open up the door that down the road, that the county will say, okay, well, we need new ambulance for Attica. We want the city of Attica to pay a certain amount.
That's a great
That's-
question too.
That's nothing in consideration.
I'm just, and the reason why I say that is because just like the new software for the 911 dispatch center, it was brought up about, well, Attica Police Department should have to pay a share of it. Covington Police Department ought to pay a share of it, which is not correct. It's not right because
They're
paying
already paying taxes for it.
Right.
So I agree with you completely there. We're not trying, all we're trying for a small amount of money, which we don't want to do it. We try to do our best at making the right decisions for all of our taxpayers.
And I support it to the point. My only concern is, are we opening ourselves up down the road to something else that they're gonna come back and say, well, it was up at Attica, we need to pay a third.
and we can say no.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a
Okay.
case by case basis.
Because, I mean, we're growing, things are growing. I mean, our fire department is busting at the seams. They're looking to expand. And, you know, I gotta commend the police department and fire department, because when those tones go off, there's not an ambulance up there. They're the first ones here. So,
Well, we're growing. We've got a lot of housing projects. We're gonna have more people. We're gonna have more needs. And, you know, by doing the things we've done this past year, adding an additional police officer, adding the part-time fire department, doing everything else, we're trying to make the right steps, baby steps, to make sure we're prepared when the housing hits, when it's needed, so we're not so far behind.
It's just growing pains.
And I know
right
it's
now.
not a popular decision, just like a lot of the other stuff going on at the county level, and we try our best. And really appreciate your research and your input, and
And
We'll
we're
definitely-
gonna take this to our next meeting that we have with them. Cause I think there's good questions. I mean,
That came from
And I don't know the
that came from
answer.
Indiana Gateway, so that's straight off the.
Yeah. And I
Okay,
don't know
if,
the
if
answer.
nobody else has anything, we've got a lot on the agenda here. I'd like to go ahead and move on. Are there any other citizens petitions?
We get some chairs for some of these people.
We don't have any more chairs in this building. We've got chairs out in the fire department. Yeah, there are a couple here. If somebody needs to sit down.
Is the presentation by pickleball players part of community concerns or own business?
I do not have it on the agenda, although I do have unfinished business, with Bocce Park Funds Project priorities. So I'm guessing that's where we'll talk about that at. Because we're gonna weigh those priorities out.
Mayor, in order to, I think that's,
Well, I get a chance to talk during that for the Memorial Park.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's probably a good place for that.
Mayor, can we,
So,
is the bulk of people here for the Kabachi Park Funds Project? Is that the reason we have a bunch here? I'm just asking because if that,
I do have that at the top of the agenda, after our department heads talk. But we can go ahead and move that to the top of the agenda if you'd like.
well, I don't like people having to stand around. I know
Yeah,
it's gonna
I
get
don't
warm in
either.
here and everything else, Mayor, so
Uh,
our department heads are fine.
yeah. Okay, then. So let's go ahead, if everybody's okay with it, let's go ahead and move to the Wabashi Park Funds Project priorities. I brought up at the last meeting that, it looked like
We
after we
got some
keep,
people back here who want to speak.
I'm not ready for them to speak yet. Okay, I'll call on you here in a minute. I brought up at the last meeting that it looked like that the only thing that was left in the budget to be able to do was the kids park down at Wabachi Park. We ran this through HWC, our engineering company that we have, and we ended up having to take things out, move things around, and try to keep the project on track and in some semblance. But at the end of the day, we didn't even have money for a basketball court. We didn't have money for 4 pickleball courts. We didn't have money for a lot of things. So all that left was the kids' park down there. And I brought that up to the council, and a lot of the council members were understandably unhappy that we're in this position. So what I did, I sent a letter out to everybody after the meeting, including our park board, and asked them for recommendations. And I said, pick a project, pick one project. Let's try to get it done and see how much money we have left over out of that, if there's anything left over. And I did get a response from the park board, and they felt like an amphitheater down at the Riverfront Park was probably some of the best money spent. That, or I think I've got the letter here. I don't want to misquote anybody.
Yeah, please do quote what they said.
The top 2 we collectively agreed upon were play equipment and a theater stage. This theater stage would provide a unique opportunity since parking, bathrooms, inclement weather, structures, and space are limited for our current event programming. Acoustics aren't the best on the current band stage, and this structure could provide a central piece for future phases of development for development to grow around. The playground equipment, as shown in our survey results, is our top interactive amenity in the park currently. So with that said, I know that there's still a lot of passion around pickleball courts, and I met with a few of you privately over the last couple of weeks, and we talked about pickleball courts and my thoughts of maybe trying to find a spot up in Ravine Park to locate pickleball courts. And I think that would be an ideal place because there's not a lot of excavating that would have to take place. As many of you know, I've been working with a group to form a not-for-profit for the swimming pool, so we can try to get it in some semblance of operation up there, whether that's a splash pad or a pool or whatever that ends up being. But I thought ideally the restrooms up there could be renovated for the pool. They could double for restrooms for the pickleball courts up there. Even maybe later on, the concession stand could be used if it became really, really popular. I don't know whether there would be any hope for the 2 groups to come together and form a single not-for-profit. I know that when you're looking for grants for different things, the more things you can do with grant money, the more points you get, and the better chances of getting a grant are. That's just something I threw out. That group, the pool group, was very excited about that. They thought they would welcome the extra help, and it would also increase your pool of volunteers. With that being said, is there anybody up here that would like to comment before I open it up to the public?
I guess one thing I think that you and I talked at one point, we talked about a design build quote that you had got for pickleball courts.
I don't have the quote yet. Still, I talked to a group out of Lebanon, Indiana, that's all they do is design builds. And they were supposed to be getting me a quote for 4 pickleball courts at the location that I just mentioned. Just because it doesn't require a lot of excavation or anything. It could be built fairly quickly right there. They quoted between $8,000 for the bottom line for each court and $50,000 a piece for the top of the line courts. So even if you put in 4 courts at $50,000, you're only looking at $200,000 for that area.
I guess when they say that they're wanting to put kids' things up, what specifically does that mean? I mean, an auditorium and that'd be great, But we
I,
have slides. and
I
stuff.
know we have slides, and I've heard that a lot,
You know.
and I guess my thought is on that, Nate, is that camping is getting a lot more popular down at the riverfront. If we have other amenities at the riverfront, including something like this amphitheater, we don't necessarily want the kids down playing in the river. If this was up away from the riverfront, I would provide a safe place for campers to have their kids up there and playing. You're probably not going to get the same clientele down at the riverfront playing that you do down in Ravine Park, for instance. So that was my thought, my answer to
Sure.
that.
Well, and most people here know I've been a musician most of my life. I love the thought of having music down there and a dedicated space for it. But which would get the most use, an amphitheater or pickleball courts? And I mean, the kids thing, I'd love to have a splash pad for them, and I think that should be important. But it's kind of vague, I guess, on what that kids play center is, I guess.
When we talked about splash pad, that was all up in Ravine Park. That's nothing.
That's not down there
No,
at
we
all.
never talked about that. down there.
Okay, well, I mean, it just kind of depends on what's going to get
The only
most
thing I was
use.
looking at moving to Ravine Park was the pickleball courts, and I'm trying to make that happen outside of what's happening down there.
Personally,
If I could say though, there, on the original drawings, there was a splash pad.
Yeah, that's
down
what
the
I
bottom.
thought.
There was,
yeah.
yeah.
I never,
Yeah.
okay, I don't recall that.
and in that space that you're talking about wouldn't be so bad. I guess I look at it and you're right, it is a prime location for such a thing, and it does have some of these, facilities that you're talking about. I mean, and the only drawback is that there's no shade. You're just down there getting blasted by
So
the
you're
sun.
not
the
going to
whole
have shade
time.
down there either, because
I'd say I think they're going to end up taking most of those trees out, but of course they're not getting a whole lot of shade up here.
The only thing up in a ravine, you do have shade in the morning and shade in the evening, because
Right.
it sits in that valley.
Right.
So the only time you're not going to have shades in the middle of the day. Does anybody else up here have anything?
Well, we talked about this before. We looked at the budget of things, and I'm sure some of you guys didn't see it. We had all like 3 or 4 different sets of quotes, and the prices were stupid. I'm sorry. They were stupid. And Larry knows this. I've already spoken to him, so I don't feel like I'm speaking. This is not the amount of things that the prices have gone up. So what I would like to do, and I'm throwing this out there because I don't know the logistics of things it's government. So it's government money and it's all the things. So you have to be careful about how you do things. We have people in our community that we can hire to do things. And I'm saying we have all different types of businesses. For example, I brought this up to Larry. You've got 2 great floral shops in the area. And I say this, and I'm being transparent. I say that my sister does own Attica Floral, my sister-in-law. So don't take her out of that for a second then. But we have Wabash Valley Floral that has great flowers. That was part of the budget. I did quote some of that just to see. It was less than half. Just to give you an idea. So I don't think that we're saying, again, this is like a for sure thing. We don't need $10,000 in ornamental grasses. That was one of the budgets. So just so you know. My other thought, which I did mention this later too, and I don't think that people realize, is with the park situation, if we put a kids' playground down there, the quote that we had does not include park equipment. Do you know that?
Well, they weren't going to bid out the park equipment. The park equipment money was going to come out of these funds.
But so when I looked at it though, it said installation, but the total price, it never once said like park like
I'd have to go back. And
it was
look
like,
at that.
I'm throwing out. It was a
I
high
was
number.
just throwing a comparison. We paid about $250,000 for the equipment that's down in Ravine Park,
Yes.
and they installed it as part of that $250,000. They being the people that we bought it off of. So if we didn't do anything else down at the Riverfront Park and we just bought the park equipment down there and had it installed, if we didn't put any sidewalks in, if we didn't buy the Cadillac, we could do that for about half of the money that's available and spend the other half the money in the amphitheater or pickleball courts or wherever y'all decide. And that was just my thought. Just split that money down the middle and spend the $250,000 on playground equipment, and we could add to that later. We could dress it up and do more with it, and then that would still leave money for the other project, whichever project that.
I like that a lot better than.
So that was just my thought, but I'd like to get one of them done, and instead of trying to do two of them concurrently,
Now,
I'd like to see one of them done.
the only other question I had was, there's still gonna have to be excavation done down there, regardless of, right? If we put
Down
a pick down there, if we
At the
put,
riverfront, absolutely.
so that's gonna also have to be taken, like, that has to be done before we put in a pickleball court or before we
I
put
would
in.
not, I wouldn't even put pickleball courts on the table down at the riverfront,
Okay.
because it's just gonna drive the cost up so much, it's gonna make it unaffordable.
I guess I
And
mean
if you-
anything.
And if you put it
You
up,
have to do the excavation regardless, correct?
not really.
Okay.
Eric, correct me, but we could probably put the park equipment down there without a lot of excavation.
Correct.
Okay. So, because, and I don't know anything about excavation, I'm just looking at the cost of it, because the quotes were, the low end was 80 and the high end was 150.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna spend that.
No.
I think we just buy the equipment and have it installed, and we can do our own landscaping around it
Mhm.
for now.
Well, and like she's saying with local companies, and I don't know pickleball courts, are they cement slabs and then?
They can be cement or asphalt, and then there's another kind of
Stressed
concrete,
concrete,
yeah, stressed
yeah.
concrete.
So,
So is that-
knowing we have concrete companies here,
Mhm.
I don't know, but I sit and think about 4 pickleball courts, and what it would take to do that concrete, and I can't come up with $200,000 between that and nets and.
Well, that was
Proper fencing,
fencing
you know,
and the whole bit. And I think that 200,000 was probably that stressed concrete. That was the Cadillac.
Got it.
But it was between 8,000 and 200 and 50,000 per court, depending on what you chose.
Is that local? Is that somebody local? Or like,
Lebanon.
oh, Lebanon, sorry, you said that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good, again, it's somebody local.
Maybe we could trade them some water.
Well, if you guys don't care, I'm gonna
No, we
open
should.
it up
Sorry,
here.
we
We'll
did.
talk to
Nope,
some
that's
people.
good.
Before we take it too far, Kelly Wigley's here, and Kelly is the mother of the children whose memorial is down at the Riverfront Park. So Kelly, if you've got some words, love to hear them.
On February 26, 2013, my world was forever changed. I lost everything that night, my 2 beautiful daughters and my husband, to a house fire. 2 weeks after that, I was informed that I needed to have what was left of my world demolished. So my dad, while grieving the loss of his grandchildren, made arrangements to have it taken care of. The lot has sat empty down there since that day. There are plans to improve the land down by the river. One suggestion is to put a park in place of where my world at that time ended. Now there's a chance to make that lot a place where children can play and laugh. And with their laughter and smiles, they will be able to help not only me and my family and my friends to heal and to have closure, but also to help the community who has lived through this nightmare with me to heal. This empty lot has a bigger effect than just a space to fill. Having a memorial park with children playing and laughing will fill our hearts and make it so the community can remember Riley, Sage, and Lance with joy instead of sadness. So I'm asking that you consider a memorial park where children can run and play and laugh, so that when people drive by and see the happiness it brings to the community, they will remember the joy my 2 beautiful girls and husband brought to all of our lives, and not to be saddened by remembering their tragic loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Does anybody else have any comments from the group? Please state your name and stand.
Dave Clark for the pickleball group.
Thank you, Dave.
Pass these out.
Yep.
Kelly, that's, my heart goes out to you. And, that's makes it pretty tough to hold one thing against another because there is no comparison, none at all. So, in regards to the statement and what we want to say from the pickleball group, it is not a competition in any way, shape, or form with that kind of loss and the desire to have a memorial for that. So obviously you see the group of people that are here. They've asked me to speak, and I'm sure that some of the questions you have already discussed amongst each other. There's some people in the audience that could actually address and answer some of those things. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do this whole piece. I've made copies so that you have it for your reference. Also, it's being passed around to the audience. So obviously we're here because we were under when I say we, I'm talking about the pickleball players of Attica. We were under the understanding, oh man, months and months and months ago that we were going to get new pickleball courts. And then when the word came out after last month's meeting that they were off the table, obviously it caused a lot of consternation. So we, after lots of conversations, as Larry said, meeting together with him and Dwayne and some other people, I kind of consolidated this. So I divided into 3 areas: vision for Attica, current state of affairs, and pickleball. So I'm skipping the vision for Attica. I think that that's fairly common and we can understand. I do think it's important to see here that, the growth and what happens with physical, mental, and social health and well-being, and as well as the 4 areas that are identified that I hear all the time. Those are important to recognize because pickleball addresses all of that. Current state of affairs. This kind of speaks in relation to some of your questions. We're struggling right now with the maintenance and upkeep of our current parks. So to add an additional park does not seem to be the effective approach right now. Ravine Park is a beautiful park in need of focus and improvement. Adding pickleball courts there would be an enhancement that partners well with the new playground, as well as future enhancements. And yes, as the pickleball group, we would be more than happy to join efforts with the group that is presently working on the swimming pool to make that large common efforts together.
That'd be great.
That is not even an issue. We already have housing efforts that are in process that address the retirement workforce and commuter focuses. Scott, as you mentioned, we're in process of growth. We have these housing developments. We're in no shape or form ready for those kinds of growth in regards to pickleball. And when I get to the pickleball area, this will make sense. We need more than what we have. And what we have is in disrepair to the point that we can't even bring a tournament in right now because it would not be a good thing. Number of pickleball players are regularly increasing. On a weekly basis, we all see new people out playing that we've never seen before. And as I said in the first paragraph, our numbers are actually getting close to 100 people here in Attica that are playing pickleball between all the different various groups. In regards to the bandstand, as Nathan said, I too am a musician. And I think most of you are aware that we do a ton of house concerts. Last year, I was instrumental in sponsoring a jazz series at the old church. I'm a musician. I love music. I am all about outdoor concerts. But building a band shell is not going to make it any better than what we currently have without the focus and the work behind the scenes. And with that said, we have the Badlands is blowing the doors out with concerts. So in regards to increasing what we do with concerts, instead of building a band shell, we should take advantage of the old church and have concert series there. If we can prove that we can fill the old church with concerts, then I believe we would be ready to move to a band shell. That's spoken as both a musician and a concert promoter. In regards to the cost that you mentioned, pickleball people are primed and ready to volunteer, to come up with reduced budgets, to find ways to beat all kinds of costs, but we can't do it by ourselves. So we need the access to some of this money that had previously been set aside and said it was going to be guaranteed there. So now let's move to pickleball. 2024 Sports and Fitness Industry Association named pickleball America's fastest growing sport for the 3rd year in a row. More than 13.6 million people across the United States were playing in 2023, which was a 65% increase from 2022. Dr. George O'Diary, a primary care sports medicine physician with the Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute, says the following. Pickleball checks a lot of boxes in terms of cardiovascular health, strength, and then balance. For older individuals, retirees, even older individuals still working, this is exactly what we need. In addition to physical health, pickleball also has a mental health component to it. Dr. O'Diary goes on to say, the idea of being social, being active with your mind, getting a mind-body connection with your muscles is super important. These are huge benefits that we know help decrease rates of depression. Why am I mentioning this? Yes, and I'll just jump to my conclusion and as a first comment. We are here because we love pickleball. That's why we're here. But it's not the only reason. There are so many exponential benefits to pickleball for a community. Morning group that plays, that you see out there if you drive by at 9 o'clock in the morning. Those are primarily older individuals, okay, that are gaining all the accesses to the healthcare, the social pieces. You take the evening group that I facilitate. We have the most amazing mixed generation group of people you can imagine. We have from 16-year-olds to 70-year-olds and every age in between on those pickleball courts together in this community. You tell me any player else in this whole town that happens to build those kinds of relationships. Let me give you a text I just received last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, from one of the employees at Harrison Steel that I work with. He texted me this: we saw you playing pickleball yesterday. It brought out a lot of feelings. We don't do anything once the work day is up. We just sit at home and wait for bedtime or watch a little TV. We saw yesterday and desired the good time you had written all over you. That, in response to that, I have already had conversations. We're prepared to add a third night on Wednesday nights to bring beginners and people like this that are looking for community. That is social mental health. This couple that texted me this happens to be in recovery, which is another area that I mentioned here. We have people that play with us that pickleball has been one of the successes to why their recovery has gone so well. So last one, community support. The morning group for years has collected money every time they play, used for scholarships and supporting community causes. Last Christmas, both pickleball groups came together, joined together, and contributed over $2,000, a part of what ended up being $10,000 to support individuals in this community who were in financial need during Christmas time. Pickleball is, yes, we love it. We're passionate. We have recreational, and then you got some of us are very competitive. But it's more than that. When you decide what to do, it is an exponential benefit to the physical, mental, and social health of this community and the opportunity to bring that community together in ways that nothing else in this town does. So we formally request that the Attica City Council honor the original intent to build new pickleball courts and use said money to build new pickleball courts in Ravine Park. Additionally, we request that the City Council work with pickleball facilitators to be determined in the areas of design, bid procurement, and build out in efforts to decrease costs while building the best courts possible within our budget. Respectfully submitted, Attica pickleball players.
I have something that might help.
Please state your name.
Lexi Haddock. I have
Can you
from
speak up? I can't hear you.
Building Socially Connected Communities Grant. I feel like if you just take that sheet of paper and submit it to our Okra representative, you could get up to 50,000. That would help with this endeavor, based on everything you just said about the age range, building socially connected communities. $50,000.
That helps. That's a court.
That's a court.
Well, I'm sorry, but it could be more than that. And can I ask Barb Foster maybe to speak for a little bit, please?
That's what you wanted to say.
About a little bit of the research that you've recently done and the focus that we have of kind of bringing volunteers to bear on the cause.
Yeah, something what you didn't mention, we just did, pickleball just did hot dogs down at Dancing Up the Street, and we'll be donating around $300 to Hope Springs here in town too. So pickleball is multi-purpose, just like you said, but as far as if we built 4 pickleball courts at Ravine Park, we would want to, with Dave's help and other volunteers that are here, we would want to get on the ground level with that so that we can help get bids. We can find cement, we can find fencing, we can get help, but we need your money. And I called a gentleman over by Fort Wayne to ask him again about it. He told me, he said, we could do 4 pickleball courts for around $22,000 to put a really nice surface on top. And I said, what about everything else? And he said, you would be better off getting local bids for the cement, for the fencing, for the excavation and everything, and go local. And I think that most of the people in this room, let's use our local people. Let's give them a chance to, perhaps they would say it would cost, I'm throwing out $10,000 to do something, and they do it for $5,000 because they're community minded. Let's go there first. Let's get it done locally. And I think we could build 4 courts down there, utilize the bathrooms, and then we maybe go for lighting. We could play pickleball 24/7.
Anybody else have anything on that subject?
I have a question. Have we got back the results from the park board, the survey they sent out?
Yes.
I know.
I have those privately, and I have a copy of them here, and I forwarded them to the city council members. They are going to have a meeting, I believe, next week at the Devon Theater, and they're going to cover all those.
That's tomorrow night.
Is it tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night is
Okay.
7.
Thank you. So, more to come tomorrow on that from the park board. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Levi Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and I've been a citizen of Attica my whole life. Dave did a great job of outlining all that. I just want to give my my personal scope of the situation. He mentioned I'm one of those people that is in recovery. I've struggled with alcoholism for over half of my life, and when I found pickleball, when pickleball found me, in a way it saved me. It taught me a lot of great things. I've built relationships with people that I would have just walked past my whole life, from the scope of old to young. It's been a beautiful blessing for me. I play as much as I can. I help as much as I can. And in doing so, I found like a real sense of community. And that's something I've always kind of like been afraid of with the addictions that I've had in my past and stuff. I always try to like back away from everybody. But pickleball has opened up with open arms, and I'm stuttering. But so in October, I lost my mom. I lost my dad in 2017, lost my mom this last October, and it was a really hard thing for me. Well, Bob was taking care of me up there at the funeral home. The pickleball community was at my house getting our meal ready. If there's like one thing that we want to support in Attica, it's community. And from the walks of life that has come on that pickleball court, that is a community within a community. And it is growing, like Dave said. And I think that it doesn't matter where the pickleball courts go, but we just need to have them. We're coming together. I'll be completely honest. I've grown a lot, and I used to laugh at the whole slogan, "It's a place to be." I was one of them, I laughed. It was like, "It's a place to be." But you know what? It's starting to be the place to be. I mean, for me anyways. And I never thought I would say that, but here I am speaking in front of all you guys. But that's because I found like real connections. I've got real friends from this. It's not just a game to me. It's family and it's friends and it's growth. And I'm really grateful to be a part of that community. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Hi, I just wanted to add a little bit to that. My name is Ben Lathrop. In some ways, my story is the opposite of Levi's. I think we are not from Attica. We are transplants. We moved here in 2021. And actually, the very first time we looked at the house that we ended up buying. We drove around a little bit, and one of the first things I saw was people playing pickleball on those courts at Sonoma Park. And I was excited because I had just been introduced to the sport by a friend in Minnesota, where I was from during the pandemic. And it really was one major factor in why we decided to move to Attica. My whole family plays. I brought 2 of my kids with me. They both play. I have another son at home who also plays, James. My wife plays sometimes. And I would say that the majority of people that I've gotten to know in Attica, I've gotten to know through pickleball. There are neighbors, there's the school, of course, but like Levi said, pickleball is a community that is much broader and more diverse, and it's really opened up a lot of doors for me. I'm a PhD student at Purdue, by the way. I was curious before I stopped talking. I'm just curious how many people are here because of pickleball. Can we just raise our hands? So that gives you an idea, and this is just a small portion of the number of people who play. That's all.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mary Jordan. I live across the street from the pickleball court at McDonald Park. It's great. My mother loved pickleball. She'd sit on her front porch and watch it all the time. My concern, though, is you talked about maintenance of the courts. Until that park is patrolled on a regular basis by the police, the kids are over there jumping up and down on the nets, trying to tear the nets up, skateboarding on the court that you spent thousands of dollars having resurfaced. And I feel very strongly, you want good maintenance over there. First of all, the park needs to be patrolled. That's my own personal opinion. Thank you.
I agree.
And I believe the gentleman to her right has wanted to speak for a while.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
you were wanting to talk quite a while ago, sir.
You were very patient.
My name is Ken Jordan. I live next to the Free Methodist Church. And I understand, I've heard that they're talking about closing the alley, which is access to my garage. And I wanted to find out what's going to happen, when, what.
It's actually on our agenda for this evening. We'll talk about it here in just a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm Sandra Shumpwara, and we're here tonight talking about 927 South Perry Street and 908 South Brady Street.
Say it again soon.
Pardon?
What, say the addresses again? 920.
908 South Brady and 927 Perry Street, South Perry.
Is that the place you and I talked about, Sandy? And I sent pictures of that to the police chief. Can you give an update on that, chief?
No, I'm not aware of which one is, I mean, we're
So,
out.
so it's the one between Perry Street and Brady Street that had all the junk piled up out behind. And I gave you a picture of that here a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, we've got a list of so many ordinance violations that are out there that.
Okay.
I have to look at the property specifically.
I'm pulling it up right now.
So I can hit on that though if you want, like to see.
Yeah, go ahead.
And for all the citizens that are in here, the front door to the police department is open to you 24/7. We have an officer on duty 24/7. You don't have to wait for a council meeting to come in there if you have a citizen's complaint. Come in there. There's always an officer. There's a red phone in there. If you pick that phone up, it goes directly to the dispatch center. I will tell you that we have 2 officers in training right now, so we are still shorthanded. But that red phone goes directly to the dispatch center. No directly radio the officer that's on duty. He can meet you at Attica Police Department, take your formal complaint. If you have a complaint about a property in town, bicycles, skateboards, any of that stuff, the door is open 24 hours a day, as well as leave a note for me to return a phone call. When we hand out ordinance violations, my email address, as well as my cell number is located on them so that those people can contact me.
our deal with these ordinance violations is we're not looking to find people. We're looking for compliance. Compliance is the key there, and the compliance of the ordinance violations is what is going to clean our city up. But there are also legal restrictions and loopholes that we have to go through to get these properties cleaned up. Court orders from the judge. They have certain amounts of times as ordinance violators. But our door is always open. It's open 24 hours a day. Come in, walk in, say hi, pick up that red phone if you need an officer. One will show up to the police department, file a complaint so that it can be noted. And we also have a web contact form on our city website. Each time that something comes through to the police department, the city clerk then forwards it on to my email. So we have a paper trail of these ordinance violations and property. So that's a great way to reach out to us if you have some comments, concerns, or some complaints.
Well, I'm aware of some of that, but this 908 South Brady Street, we put up with that for too damn long.
It's abandoned, it's right next to that.
Terrible. It's terrible. And behind us now on Perry Street is just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, well, Perry Street is, I'm sorry, I'm David Rogers. I live right behind the one on 927, and in less than 6 months' time since they've moved in, the people, it has turned into nothing but a giant junkyard. And every single day they bring in more stuff. They go around town, they collect everything, and then they take it and throw it in their backyard. Atticus town-wide cleanup, they cleaned up the town and it wound up in the backyard.
We laugh, but it's not.
No, that's awful.
If you've seen the pictures, you'd understand my disgust because I take care of my yard and my house and everything else. And then I've got to live with that behind us. And it never was like that until they moved in, and in 6 months' time, and that quick, it has turned into, and then you got animals running in and out of there, you got raccoons coming in and out of there, you got rabbits running all through there, and they don't mow their yard, they don't take care of anything, they just pile junk up, and then they burn whatever they can in a burn pile back there. They collect pallets.
Okay, well, I mean, like I said, the time really in a council meeting is not the place for it. But
gotta bring it up.
you can come right down to the police department, we can take your complaint there, and we'll move forward with it.
I'll be looking for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we kind of got off the original topic here and we jumped back to citizens petitions, but do we have anything else on this Wabachi Park to discuss here before we move forward?
The only thing I'd like to say is I've always been a big advocate of pickleball. I've really pushed for it. And I appreciate all of you showing up because I think showing how much interest there really is in it kind of opens people's eyes. I mean, just me saying we need pickleball courts, and if you don't play, you don't know how popular it is. And all of you coming here, I appreciate you.
And I guess in closing, I'm one of them that doesn't play and have been the negative Nancy about this the whole time. But I did some research and it is very, very popular and it's growing for all ages. And love your guys' commitment and what it's doing for our community. And I would, we all vote, but we'd love to see it. I think Ravine Park would be a great location up there by the old pool. It would be great for kids to be able to go and play at the new playground, equipment, everything else. So hopefully we could, I'm a big supporter of local. We've got a concrete company here that could do multiple things. We got fencing. I'd rather spend our dollars local and piece it out to get the professionals to do it rather than giving it to, Indianapolis or wherever else, the big money engineering companies that take half the budget to do drawings and surveys.
Amen.
I think the only thing is, as was pointed out, it is public funds. So we have to be very careful about the bid process and how we do that. If this was a private company, Scott Voorhees Coffee Shop hiring it out, you could just go hire whoever you wanted. But, in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna have to have a bid spec of exactly what we want done. It's gonna have to go out to multiple people, even if they are in the city. And I don't know that we can restrict that to just local people either. I think if you have that bid spec and you're going out for bids on something of that nature, I think you still have to include bids from people outside the area. It's not quite as cut and dried and simple.
But
as
is there
it
a
might sound.
limitation? I mean, is there a $50,000 threshold of certain?
On some
Apartments.
things, yes, 50,000 was, at least that's where it
There
is
is.
where I work.
So if we don't exceed 50,000, we could,
If you can get the whole project under $50,000, we gotta be really careful about trying to do it in little bits and pieces to
Oh,
keep it
so-
under the 50,000 threshold.
So
As a
it's
way
the
to
whole
circumvent
project?
that rule, so you should be looking at it more as the big project, because you can get dinged if you try and do it piecemeal and pick off pieces here and there to keep it under.
got it.
Could you do the courts and then add the fence separate?
You could,
That's-
but you'd have to be, I mean, again, you're getting really close to
Okay,
splitting
I-
hairs.
That's
I mean,
gonna come under some scrutiny.
Okay.
and I'm
for
not trying to
public
be, the
funding.
negative Nancy here.
Well, I'm
trying
not
keep you
trying
guys
to
out of,
either,
like,
but
federal
I-
law.
I just want everybody to understand that it's not as quite as simple as just calling up some local contractor and saying, hey, come pour the concrete.
When we get audited, as we're still getting audited now, we want to do things right with taxpaying dollars to not cost us more, so.
And that, I get following, we have to obviously follow the rules. I'll just tell you guys right now, I think that it's insane that some of the amount of this projects that we've done, that we've had to bid out for
And
things.
that's why the
It's
projects
stupid.
grow, is because of the bid process.
It's infuriating to me, looking at the budgets of
It
some of
is.
these things, and it's,
Well, welcome
we have,
to,
yeah,
welcome to public funding.
that's so dumb. And so, is there something on there that if it's, let's say it's over a $50,000 project, and you have to bid it out, do you have to go with one company and that company, or can you?
You have to go with the best. You don't necessarily have to go with the cheapest, but you have to
Correct.
demonstrate why you pick somebody else over the cheapest.
And you need to have like a justifiable reason, like they did bad work in the past, reputation, things like that. Like you need to have
Yes.
proof. You can't just be like, this is working out.
We don't like
great.
them.
That makes sense, yeah, that makes sense. That was my question, I didn't know how that worked with, yeah, that makes sense.
Grace Hiller has been sitting here with her arm up for a while. She's on our junior council, and we'd love to hear what the junior council has to weigh in on this.
So I'm not bashing the pickleball in any way. I play pickleball. There's currently pickleball battles in my car that is sitting out there. I love pickleball. But as someone who, I'm not comparing myself to her at all, but I lost my grandpa this past year, and I hate when people bring him up. So to come out here and talk about what she's been through, I just think the park needs to be considered a little more, because that is heartbreaking to me.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on the junior council that would like to weigh in?
Schwank had his hand up as well.
Just let's finish it. Let's finish with the junior council here, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, we just want to say our official recommendation for, it's Wabash Park, right? Not, is that how you pronounce it?
It's
Wabash?
supposed to be, it's Wabash.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on where you're
Our official
from.
recommendation for Wabash Park will be the park equipment, and then second would be the amphitheater, similar to the park.
Thank you. Mr. Swank?
All I wanted to say was a lot of times the problem that you have is not so much the local contractors, it's once the local contractors find out how much red tape there is with government
They don't
money
want to bid.
as far as paying prevailing wage. It's not like they can pay their average worker $10 an hour. There's a union scale that they have to go by, and the same guy that normally makes $10 an hour may make $38 on that job. So that plays a big factor. We, a lot of times, do ask local contractors to bid on these projects, and as soon as they find the red tape, they are out the door.
Eric, what's the restriction on donated labels? Qualified.
I'm not for
donated.
sure of that.
That's why I think we're missing the big picture here. Everybody here has been to Covington, we've seen the Trojan facility. That's just public, that's what that is.
Yeah, I think as long as we're not paying for the labor, I think you can do whatever you want to do. But if we're paying for the labor out of public funds, then these other restrictions kick in.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just think we're missing the boat, I really do. And it just gutted me when I paid $125,000 for the survey. Tell that guy to, we'll survey this thing. We're just inventing problems.
Cindy Mason, you've had your hand up for a
I
while.
did, and I just want, I'm Cindy Mason, and I wanted to say, I'm so glad that Levi is into Attica as a place to be. And one's where I think the community, this is amazing. The pickleball people are amazing, what they do for the community. And I think the community needs to be into providing amenities for the people that live in Attica. And considering what their needs are and what their wants are and what they are already giving back to us. And so I wholeheartedly endorse, the use of funds for the pickleball. And I also, when I heard about the playground equipment, I had mixed feelings because I think we have 4 playgrounds right now, and I see how much they're utilized. McDonald Park is utilized a lot, for sure. Ravine Park is utilized too, but the other parks are not very well utilized.
And there's also none downtown either. They're all uptown for people with kids.
I also think that there needs to be some type of remembrance for whatever is put down there in that area to remember your children. So I'm not insensitive to that too. So, whatever, if it was a splash pad or whatever, I think some type of recognition would be appropriate. Yes. But I just think that we need to be thinking about amenities for our people who live here, amenities to keep these people here. We need these people in this room to make Attica the place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay. Got one more.
Hi, I'm Amanda Leonard, and I live at 706 South McDonald Street, and I would like to ask the city council to please consider asking the property owner at 708 South McDonald to remove his tree, as it is currently occluding the alleyway, which directly affects my access to my garage. The properties at 805 South Perry also has a garage that can be accessed from that alleyway. That alley also, because it is shifted, I think it's a total of 4 feet. It has now encroached over onto Sandy Reese's property at 807 South Perry Street, which is not right for that property owner as well. My main concern is I do have vehicles parked in my garage, and with the new ordinance on McDonald Street that's going to be coming in, I'm not going to be parking in front of my house, so I'm going to be utilizing my alleyway a lot more. If we could just consider asking him to remove that tree.
Or at least the branch.
The trunk of the tree is also out there in the alleyway as well. If you look at the first picture, you can see how far that tree has actually shifted the alley over, which has now shifted over into 807's
I guess.
South
So
Brady.
it's like the.
Yeah, so it's shifting over into Sandy Reese's property at 807 South Brady.
Okay.
Right, and those are your guys' copies to keep.
Oh, thank you. Is, Eric, is that something you can look into?
I've looked at it.
You already have?
Yes, I've met with her and the adjoining homeowner. The tree is one of those trees that, 50 years ago was growing right on the property line, and now it has engulfed the area. Very large diameter tree. It does intrude on the alley. Proper procedure probably is going to be making the adjacent homeowner remove the tree.
To remove the whole tree?
Yes, it's not a situation where a branch can be cut. The actual trunk of the tree is rightfully so where the alley would lie. I mean, of course, we don't have survey for it. We're basically going off of Beacon, but it definitely looks to be that situation.
So if the tree is in the alleyway,
Trunk and roots and all.
can we just cut it down?
We can, it's going to be a very expensive tree. It has a lot of overhead power lines, it has cable, telephone. There's a lot of utility there.
Who does it belong to? What house number?
It belongs to the property owner, it's 7.
I believe it's Case.
708.
708?
Case
Brian-
Altman.
Brian and Kathy Jarvis, 708 South.
No.
Oh,
Se-
sorry,
708
I'm on
South
Brady. I'm on
McDonald,
Brady.
it's Matthew Altman, and here's pictures of the tree that's into the power lines there.
Well,
as
if it's in the power lines, I believe Duke has a responsibility to get them trimmed.
Well, yeah, what they will do is they will clear 15 feet in that area, but they won't.
Right.
But our concern is, my garage, I do have my father's 55 Chevy truck that's gonna be stored in there. If that garage catches fire, is the tanker gonna be able to get down that alleyway to put that fire out? I mean, that is my main concern. My son has a 1994 Chevy truck that he's restoring in that garage as well. And that's the only access point of my driveway. And then, like I said, also the property owners at 805 South Brady Street, they have a garage that is accessible from that if their garage was to catch fire, the tanker could actually go down that alleyway as well. That's why I'm asking, to have the property owner remove that tree.
So how does that work?
I'm consulting with our attorney here
The
now.
question we all have.
I ask myself that every day.
Yeah,
Oh, we do.
I am such a tree lover. This is like breaking my heart.
I do too, but it
freaking
is
hate
what
it.
it is.
You know what, I agree with you.
Oh, no, I agree, man. I know, I agree.
There's plenty of money sitting in my garage right now that
Probably is, yes.
No, I agree with you. I 100%, because you'd be able to access.
Yeah,
I
I don't like erecting on Mrs. Bruce's property.
It just makes me sad. I totally get it. It makes sense. I just love
Okay.
trees. I hate hearing any. I don't know. I have a problem. My kids cry anytime there's a storm because we know that. I know, it's a problem we have.
So our attorney says that if the trunk is on their property, it's their problem. So do we need to send them a letter asking them to remove the tree?
I mean, is that enforceable?
So
So then what
if they-
happens if they say no? Because he just said it's gonna be expensive.
Then the city takes the tree down and puts a lien on his property?
Is it on the city property at all?
No, it's
If
actually, no, it is on the 708 South McDonald Street property.
Did you talk to him, Amanda?
I have not.
Okay.
I had him, I spoke with him briefly about removing poles that he had actually put into the alleyway, but nothing about the tree.
Okay. I just didn't, yeah.
And my concern is just because I'm no longer having parking in front of my house, that all of our vehicles are gonna be around back.
Yep.
Just getting the tanker to it.
Yep.
Last thing we want is a bunch of people change that tree there.
I know it. Kaylee.
Listen! Now I'm gonna do it. You just wait. I'm gonna bring all the children, all 47 of
We've got a
mine.
lot on the agenda here, so we need to keep this moving if we can. We're still at the top of the list, if that tells you anything.
Yes, we're gonna really get on
Yes, sir.
time.
So,
I think that the library, okay, the library has something to do with that.
okay, well, are we done with the tree? What's the recommendation on the tree?
Tree's
I don't
gotta
think you
go.
have an
Tree's
option.
gotta go.
You look at that
So-
tree we've got to file,
We're gonna ask our city attorney to send a letter to the property owner asking them to remove the tree.
708 South McDonald.
what was the other address? you
Okay.
mentioned, though?
805 and 807 are the ones that it's on.
Still on citizens petitions, library.
Yes, hi, my name is Jill Mandeville, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees of the Attica Public Library. I'm joined tonight by Katie Cropper, I'm the Children's Librarian. And we just wanted to make the council aware and our community of some exciting, good things happening at the library.
We like good things.
And we want the council in on it because obviously you are our fiscal body that approves our bonds. We would actually like to be added to your agenda for the August and September meetings. And our director, Brittany Hayes, will be able to join us then and give you more details. But we're excited to do some improvements and some maintenance to the library. We will be actually looking to renew bonds, and we're trying to do this in the most fiscally responsible way, remaining tax neutral. We'll be looking at seeking your approval for a bond of around $995,000. And that will be really to do tuck pointing and roof and just a lot of facility maintenance, but also some exciting things inside, like updating our furniture. The main thing is, as libraries, ours is 120 years old this year, as we look to continue to be more relevant and serve our community in the way that it's needed, we're looking to add some rooms, study spaces in the library, as our library tends to be used for all kinds of private meetings, social worker meetings, supervised visitation meetings, kind of co-working space. So we're just looking to make our facility relevant, updated, and so that's what we're seeking to do. We're working with Tecton Construction Management, Ice Miller for municipal bond advisement, and so we'll have more details for you, but we just wanted to give you a heads up that this is coming. We're really excited about it, and we'll have more information for you in August.
I'll have you on the agenda.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other citizens petitions before we get on to other things? Mr. Runyon, did you have something? I don't want to skip over you.
I just wanted to see if you approved the permit that I turned in up at the phone office.
That's got to come in front of the council, and council will review it and take a vote. I do not have it.
It was sent to us on June 11th, along with the
Okay.
ordinance and everything else.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, thoughts from the council? This isn't my decision, I guess it's a council decision.
You have chickens back there too.
Yes.
I tell you, I've been trying to rack my brain for a month, trying to figure out a way that we can accommodate you. I think that you have a passion for these animals, and that's something that's a resource, and a town is built on resources like that. I've tried to make phone calls of people I know that may be able to facilitate your animals outside of city limits. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find anyone to accommodate.
Well, this also goes into a zoning situation also, which the information I just got finished getting together for the zoning. Potbelly pigs didn't originate in this country right off. They actually came from China in 1989. Now, back then, there was no changing in the farm ordinance. They were still considered as farm animals. Back then, people started fighting for the right for them because they are like dogs. They're easier to train. I can take each and every one pig out for a walk on a leash if I knew it was safe, that I had a path or something, but they're always on my property. They live inside my house. My yard's fenced in. I've tried to accommodate everything by cleaning up constantly and doing what I'm supposed to. Back when I originally bought the pig up, there was I actually had a petition by all my neighbors signed that I bought it. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it. Otherwise, I would have bought that in also.
It's just difficult to, make a blanket, policy on something like that and make exceptions for it.
Well, my thoughts, and we did receive an email from the police chief, and it's not you, Mr. Runyon. I know you've been attending our meetings and been a big supporter of many of our initiatives and things like that. But we've got multiple locations, and every situation this falls under our ordinance. It's a case-by-case exception granted by us. And my personal opinion is, I did several drive-bys to your property. I've looked at all your emails, your photos, everything else you've done. How many chickens do you have?
Right now, there's 10, and 5 of them are going, because I actually looked at that ordinance and seen I have way too many.
6 is the limit.
Right.
But this is a difficult decision for me. And I do recall the paperwork when you came in and the petition from your neighbors and everything else. So if somebody asked me to give them to my dogs, then I would personally decide to move out of the town if I had to. So.
I mean, I've been here in this town since 2009. I've had pigs since I've moved here.
If we were to grant you an exception for 2 and 2 only, I know you're into your rescue process, or involved in rescue and everything else.
Usually when I rescue a pig, it's usually only at my house for max a month, and then it's transferred off to its forever home.
But if the council were to consider making an exception for you for 2 pigs only and agreeing to get to the 6 chickens and cleanliness, and the police chief will call me personally if one of your pigs get out, he's gonna chase it because he's not gonna do it again, I don't think.
Well, he's never chased.
No,
me.
I'm not, but he has in town.
I have chased.
Yes, and
He
so
has
have
in
I,
town.
actually. I've
But
had
no one else in this
assistance from
community
the
that
police
has pigs has come forth and filed, and they will get ordinance violations. And, they've not followed the process.
Well, I
They've not
agree
been
that if
involved.
someone doesn't follow the process, that the pigs should be tagged. So if by chance you do have to, they get fined automatically. I mean, I turned in a whole thing about this originally on how to follow through with rules and tagging and having them chipped, making sure they get their vaccinations when I originally bought this up.
I did have to, I won't say I chuckled to myself, but I chuckled to myself. This application says mini pigs.
Yes.
And there's not too
They're
much
nothing.
mini.
They're not-
There's not much mini about those pigs.
They're actually American potbellies is what they're called now. There is no such thing as a mini pig, a teacup pig,
I mean,
anything
these
like
aren't
that.
this big. They feed
They
half the people in
weigh
this room.
any place from 100 pounds to 400 pounds.
How much do yours weigh?
Mine, they're about 150. And usually they get bigger than that when they're overfed and people don't take care of them properly. And that's why it's become a big issue with pigs, is because people get them because they're so cute and small, and then they're throwing them out in the street. Next thing you know, they're eating somebody's crops down the street, and they're on the phone to the police department wondering what to do. And that's when Fountain County usually gets a hold of me and says, hey, we got a pig loose over here. Can you go give him a hand and get this pig and send it off to where it's got to go? And that's what I usually do.
I think you have some sympathetic ears here that really want to accommodate, but I gotta ask. Order. Pickleball hooligans. If this council is to entertain this application,
Excuse me. Side conversations out in the hallway, please.
thank you. If we do entertain this, do we have a guarantee from you that it is not going to inconvenience, and specifically our police, your neighbors? If we had some form of assurance, at least that's something.
As far as I'm concerned, it's never, except for the one time where I was sick and I couldn't clean up after them in the yard. And I guess Vicky Kokenberg is the one who said something about it. She's probably the one who turned in the complaint on me to begin with. But she also signed a petition back then that my pigs are taken care of.
But going forward?
Yes. I actually do have plans of finding someplace out of town to keep my pigs also. But
Odd question. We seem to have pigs come up in our conversations here in this room quite often. If we do have problems with pigs in this community, would you be interested in stepping in and helping?
Sure, not a problem.
It's a resource. That's important. I'm trying to figure out any kind of exception we can make for this, and if there's ever in my mind that an exception should be made, it should probably be made here. We also have to worry about precedents and things like that.
That's my fear, you set a precedent and, well, this guy's got pigs, we want pigs. Next thing you know, 30 people in town want to have
And then
pigs,
upset
and
at
they
us
may not be as good of custodian of those said pigs as he is.
Well, I think the thing to consider there is by the ordinance, you file a request a permit, request an exception based off the location he's at. I think that would be fine. If we were talking across the street here from the city building, then I would not be supportive at all. I'll support moving forward with it, but I would just want to tell you that if it becomes a problem, there's more, you get to a point of it's a nuisance or there's an ordinance violation, then we could revoke your permit and.
Right.
I would
Well, I
say
understand that.
for me that I know you said that you have one of them that was your mother's.
Correct.
And you have yours. I know you have those two.
Right.
My thing or my request maybe would be that if I don't want to sound insensitive when I say this, so please, that's not what I'm saying. Our animals eventually leave us at
Right.
that time. My only request would be that if something were to happen to one of your animals and they pass on, that if he were to try to get another animal, that he would come here first. I don't feel like is that, do you see what I'm saying? Is this for the current pigs or all future pigs? Because I'm understanding of this instance where you've had your pigs for a very long time. You have your mother's pig. Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
So this would be my concern is moving forward because let me be honest with you, I don't love the idea. But I'm sympathetic. I'm also not an animal lover. So I'm sympathetic.
No, but you're a tree lover. So
I am a tree lover.
It's the same thing as an
It is.
animal
You're
lover.
right. I am a
Let's
tree
clean
lover.
up the trees.
Yeah. So I do, but I'm sympathetic to you because you've had them for so long as well.
Right.
So I'm not trying to sound negative, and I don't want anything to happen to your animals, by the way. That's not what I was
Right.
getting at either.
If the council would permit something like this, and you do go over the 2 pigs and.
Well, there's
6
gonna be a time
chickens.
where unfortunately, the county does ask me to rescue a pig, and then I have it at the house for the most a month.
And that's a resource. You provide a service that helps everybody as a whole. I would suggest, though, if the council allows such a thing, and that you go over those numbers, that you kindly let us know
Right.
so that we can at least be in the loop, be considerate of us. You might possibly find us being considerate of you.
Not a problem, sir.
So based off the additional things that all the council has said, can we document the specific approval on those exceptions and any potential future? So there's several clauses to it, and we're trying to lean to support you with this, but we're gonna have some specifics tied to
Do you have anything
supporting it.
positive, negative?
And I don't know if
I've said from the beginning, if the neighbors are okay and that he's taking care of his pigs and they're not running loose in town, I don't really have a problem with it.
And I guess, Mayor, since
Sorry,
you're meeting,
Okay,
if you want to open it up,
please
ask
understand.
any of our citizens what to share their thoughts before
How
we
about
take a
the
vote.
junior council? Do you have any thoughts on this situation?
I was here last month's meeting when you were discussing this, and I am sympathetic towards you as well. I understand that you take care of these pigs and you do the maintenance, and they're not a nuisance until as of recent. So I am on your side with this. I think you take great care of them, and that you're definitely doing your due diligence with taking care of them and helping out here in our community.
Thank you.
Please understand that if it is granted, that it becomes a problem, I'm sure that it will probably be revoked.
Right.
So do we have a motion to approve the application to keep no more than 2 pigs?
These particular 2 pigs.
These particular 2 pigs and possibly a rescue pig for up to 1 month.
Teal's got something.
Yes, Teal.
I have a question. Is he outside the city limits or within the city?
He's within the city limits.
I'm within the city limits right just before you get to the sewer plant.
Don't we have a city ordinance that
We
do
do.
not have livestock.
We do, and it's, and
So I find this,
there's an allowance for that. It's a special allowance that the county, the city council can grant.
It's a special animal permit as an exception based only because it is not, with our ordinance, it says no. But you can apply for an exception to the rule, which is what he has done.
so it appears to me, and I'm not just in this particular situation, but in other situations, like the neighborhood behind Autumn Trace was having issues with the pigeons. I mean, it seems to me it's gonna be an ongoing issue when you start making exceptions for the rules. And pretty soon you've got chaos because, you know, so if so is able to do it, then why can't I? I just think that there's too many things that in Attica right now, not just this particular subject, but that aren't being enforced. I personally wouldn't like it if my neighbors brought in livestock of any kind.
Under the ordinance, they wouldn't be allowed to if you were opposed to it. That's why I was asking if all the neighbors were
And
okay. They wouldn't bother
technically,
anybody.
American potbellies are not considered livestock. Even though some people try to eat them, they're not very good.
They're livestock as defined by the ordinance, but there's a pending motion to permit this application for pigs on the table. So that needs voted on, please.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
A motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna not vote.
One abstention. So it looks like for now, you're good to go.
Okay, and if police ever need help, please feel free to reach out. I'll be there. We'll be there.
Okay, moving forward.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ryan.
Do we need to provide him something in writing?
I
with
could do a letter that can be copied on the city letterhead that documents the
Yeah, I
caveats.
can by the
Yes.
So
city
what we
building
just
when they're
said.
open
Yes.
and pick something up.
Okay.
We'll get something drafted up with the additional stipulations that we had to approve.
Okay.
Thank you for
very much.
everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about the fine that he got? Is that something that you addressed as well?
Well, I think if we decide to put that on hold until we tell this. Right?
Is that a
In
letter
his
of
case.
recommendation, Mr. Mason? Judge Mason?
We'll just address Judge Mason at City Court and ask him to dismiss.
Okay.
Fair enough. You hear that?
No, I didn't.
Discussion, the citation that you got, Chief Miller. Could you say to him what he said to me?
We'll just, at next month's meeting, since we postponed it, awaiting their decision, we'll ask Judge Mason to dismiss that. Nikki will file paperwork and that ordinance violation will be dismissed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, need to move on here. What you got, Cindy?
City Mason, I'm speaking for Main Street Lex. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that was involved with Dancing in the Streets, which is our annual big event in Attica. We had great support. We had members of the youth council that were working, so we appreciated that. The pickleball people were out in force supporting that. So just thank you to everybody that was involved. EMTs were there taking care of a friend. It was just a great night, very successful. So I just wanted to say on behalf of all of us, thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Remediation of 200 block fuel tanks. I got a letter, just an update to everybody. Got a letter today from Gary Weintraub.
Are you gonna do department heads?
We'll come back to that.
Okay, all right.
I want to get through this. I'm going to try to stick to this and get through it. I got a letter today from Gary Weintraub. He's from Patriot Engineering. They completed the excavation of the residual petroleum impacted soil tank pit down the 200 block. Confirmation soil samples were collected and they all came back clean. To paraphrase, they will provide us with a report documenting the work and the lab results. So they've sent that on to IDEM for their approval. So we should be getting a letter from IDEM very soon clearing us to do whatever we want with that property.
That's good news.
So that was really good news.
Good
It's
stuff.
not gonna cost us any more money.
Good.
Goody, goody.
Sale of vacant city-owned lots for new housing.
I am still waiting on the last appraisal from Mr. Meadow. I've not heard a peep from him, and I think I will probably try and get a hold of him, and if he started, I'll let him finish, but if not, I'll find another appraiser. Because it has been a while.
He's
Been a
kind
hot
of the, never mind. I'm not a fan.
Cemetery rate increase rule changes. I sent that out to everybody. Did you have a chance to look over that again? I made the recommended changes from input from Mr. Moss and from the other council members.
Still some questions I had about that, I guess.
I made it just like you said.
Oh. Having 3 urns, cremation burials on an existing traditional burial, quite a bit. Probably, honestly, need to probably be cut down to 2. 3 total burials on a grave space would be my
Well,
recommendation.
Orville Smith out at the
I
cemetery
spoke to him this morning about
told
it.
me 3. So
3 total.
3.
That'd be a
3
traditional and 2.
He told me 3 above an existing is what he told me.
I'd say I spoke to him this morning, said a little different, but
Okay, I'm good with
That's-
changing it.
yeah,
I don't know that it would happen that often anyway.
I don't think it happened very often, but to me, 2 urns, I wouldn't.
on
I know
top
he
of
talked
traditional.
about
I mean,
some
that's-
of the urns can get rather large these days, and they're not just a small round urn, they're
No,
square.
we need to also be aware, state law requires that there's 2 feet of soil
Yeah,
on top of burials of any kind. I saw the pay thing on here, just a side note, there was no pay scale for somebody who wanted 3 spaces. I guess at the kind of the rate you got, it'd be somewhere around 1900, 1950, give or take.
I thought I had that on there, but it must have got deleted when I updated it.
I was very excited to see that you stuck with the 5 grave lots. I think that was a very wise decision. No urn vaults on top of traditional burials. It really gets, like you said, sometimes it just doesn't allow the kind of space. Other than that, I can't find any fault with anything that you got. Other than that, so that's all I have.
Anybody else? So do we want to move this forward based on the recommendations from Mr. Moss and we'll just update it? Or do you want to bring it back to the next meeting and do this again?
I guess I do have a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It said no funerals be scheduled for cemetery no later than 3, but we do have a pay scale for that. All funerals scheduled times.
For arrival, no later than 3 p.m. for safety reasons.
So
So
if
you
we
have
go
to be there
past-
by 3.
All funerals after scheduled times listed above, subject to additional $300 fee. So let's say we have a funeral at 4, they can do it, but
It's going to cost them.
it's going to cost them $300 extra.
Yes.
Okay, but it is possible.
Yep. And if you look at the schedule up above, it says like, just for instance, Saturday, 12 p.m. and after, but before 3 p.m. They all say before 3 p.m. So if you go after that, you're going to pay an additional $300.
All right.
I'd say we've had it on here, I think 3 times now, Mayor. So I think if we make the changes that Mr. Moss just brought up. Mr. Moss, Senior,
Yes, sir.
Bob,
Yes.
you got a chance to review that? You've been
Yes,
doing
I
this and
have.
taking care of us for a long time.
I've got a concern with the existing grave spaces out there. Each lot contains 5 graves. And you want to kind of move them to 4 graves, and that's kind of wasting a space. I would like to see it remain at 5 grave spaces per lot, especially with the software that the city has. They've already got that implemented into their system, but I can't see reducing it down to 4 graves like the Catholic section does. I know we have plenty of room out there for right now, but, for future, I just like to keep it at 5, if at all possible.
So are you saying that you'd be forced to buy 5 graves when you
No,
buy
just
them?
5 grave lots.
Right now, you're showing that each lot will contain 4 graves.
No, that's an old copy. The new one has 5 grave lots.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, we changed that the last
Okay, I
time
didn't
around.
see that, okay. So what do the 5 grave spaces cost? What's the
I
proposal?
think
At
I've got
this,
the
it's
old copy
3,000.
here. I don't have the new.
3,000 at this.
3,000?
Yeah, this scale.
And what are the 3 grave spaces going for?
That actually is a question I brought up. I suggested around 1,900 to 1,950 at the scale that he's got them at now, which I have to say I think is kind of generous. So, considering that they haven't been adjusted in some time.
I think it was 2002, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And how strict are you with the 3 o'clock deadline getting into the cemetery?
Presumably before 3.
I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna stand there with a stopwatch and say, oh, it's 3:01, but if it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, that may be a different.
Well, I understand that.
Story.
I'm going to relay that to my families from now on. But when we have a 2 o'clock service, depending on open conversation from the floor, just got, sharing their memories of their loved one. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I will share that with them. But if we would be out of the cemetery by 3:30, would that be viable to not be penalized with $300?
You're asking if there's going to be a grace period in there.
Yeah.
Mr. Swank, we defer to you a lot on this because it's your staff, so.
10-minute grace period.
10?
Yeah.
10-minute grace.
It's pretty lenient, huh?
No, of course, the goal is for the guys not to lose their entire afternoon.
To be accommodating.
When they come in, for a funeral. Most generally, it's set up in the afternoon, so it's pretty much killing your entire day. The compassionate side of me, of course, somebody's lost a loved one. But I think we need something as a standard to go by. That way, as time goes on, there's pretty much a precedent set to where they're out of there.
There's always exceptions to the rule if a family wants
Yes,
to
we-
absorb the additional cost or something, because every family is a little bit different,
We've
so.
had times where they've sat out there and played football. And of course, we can't just pull in with the dump truck and start dumping dirt on there. I mean, we have to be compassionate about it and kind of let everybody leave.
That's a different way to grieve.
Yeah.
And trust me, it's happened.
We want to be accommodating, but we don't want it to be abused.
Exactly.
So Mayor, I think we had 2 or 3 things there, and if you're okay
Yeah,
with those
write them
changes,
down,
then
yeah.
we could go ahead and proceed, or we table it till next month?
I
know we got a lot
can
left to
go
cover.
ahead and make these changes and we can do it based on the changes if you want. So we have a motion to proceed with the changes that were outlined.
And if we say yes, when would that go into effect?
We don't have to advertise that, do we?
No.
It's not a penalty. so-
I make a
When will
motion
it
to
take
proceed.
I'll second it.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
When will this take effect?
I have on here 8/1.
Okay. And what did we decide for the 3 graves?
1,900, I believe is what we mentioned.
Yeah, because 4 is 2,500 and 2 is 1,300.
Not many cities own a cemetery, so this is a little different for us, and it's got to at least be able to take care of itself.
Are we stuck on it being August 1st is the go date, or can they push it back because we're still talking about? I mean, we're not talking about it.
We're not
but-
talking about it, we just passed it, so.
I no, that's not what I meant. I meant, are we good with, that's what, we're 100%, that's when we're gonna start, even though there's now, we're still changing a little bit?
No, we just agreed on the 3 changes.
Okay.
So it's a done deal.
We modified.
Okay, so August 1st.
I just have to make sure that the girls in the city clerk's office are aware of what needs to be done. And I'm working on a spreadsheet for them so they can navigate the pricing without too many questions.
Does that give you guys enough time with planned vacations, things like that? I know you guys have a lot going on, so would it be 1 August? I don't know what the software is like or how complicated to update everything.
No, the prices aren't embedded into the software. We do that in our financial. What's embedded in there is the five graves per plot. That's what Bob was talking about. So if we go down to 4 graves per plot, then we would have to go into the software and make lots of adjustments, but.
Hey, Mayor.
Yeah.
Would you mind, I know we'll have to talk a little bit louder, but we turn the AC on for just a few minutes because it's
No,
really warm.
well, I was hoping people.
Hey, Chief. You guys, we have to talk a little bit louder, but we're gonna try to cool it down. a
Not
little
you,
bit.
us.
Is that gonna be published on the Attica page, the new price changes and rules?
I'm sure it probably will.
Yeah,
It'll be available in the clerk's office, I'm sure.
It'd be under probably city forms. 310 Market Street, tear down. Eric? Do you have anything on 310 Market Street on the tear down?
I do not. Do you want us to do it internally?
I'd just like to see it go. So if you guys can knock it down quickly, I'm good with that. I know you're busy and you got a lot going on, but if it's something you think you can handle.
I think we could do it on rain days.
Okay.
As long as there's a little bit of leniency.
Okay.
There as far as seeing activity and then maybe not activity for another week.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Rental housing inspections, report recommendations. I know that some of the junior council is working on that. And Nate, where are we at with that?
Well, still kind of trying to get a feeling for the whole thing. I guess we're just trying to get a database of landlords, correct? Mickey has been asking people that come in and pay their bills, and many of them volunteered that they are landlords or who the landlords are. Or
We have, when you come in to set up new service, you either have to show proof of ownership, which would be like a purchase agreement, something like that you're purchasing the home, or you have to show a lease agreement.
Okay.
So yeah, we know who the renter and who the owner are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we capture the bulk of we know our rentals, and then we look at the information that you've gathered from new services over the past 24 to 36 months, could we capture 80% of the rentals within Attica to proceed with this?
I would say probably, yeah.
That would be to be a starting point. We're gonna have some out there that we're gonna miss, but we'll get them eventually.
Are there penalties in this ordinance for people who do not sign up for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we catch them, then there's penalties that are greater than the $5 it takes to sign up for it?
And we can put that out to the public that you have to register your rental properties by a certain date, right?
Yes. I just need to know the dates and if there are any changes to the rental ordinance itself. You want to make any changes to the inspections, frequency of inspections, what exactly we're looking
I
for?
think we nailed that down pretty.
I think
pretty
that's
good.
okay. I wanted to make sure that after
And
review that.
it's been passed, published, everything, but we've not been able to push
Force.
forward.
Yep.
So I would say we raise a flag, advertise it all over the place, and we are moving forward, and you need to be in compliance.
When do they need to be in compliance by?
The original effective date was October 1st to be in compliance. Do you want to keep it there? Do you want to bump it to just?
24?
No.
23.
A while ago. Do you guys want to bump that to like December 31st and we start over on a new year, new cycle? Do you guys want to put it in the fall? When do you guys want it, the deadline?
I say you do it as soon as possible. They've had a year.
Well, the bad thing is if they haven't registered now, we're gonna go back on them and
Oh,
No.
Then we're
no,
gonna,
I'm not saying that. I just mean like
so,
they should like pick a date, August, I'm not saying August 1st, and then that's it.
but we're gonna overload.
Or September 1st,
We're
that's
gonna
fine.
overload Mr. Swank if we don't give some leeway here for him to either add some staff to help him out to do these inspections and some things like that. So it's gonna be a big burden to our city workers.
remember, we weren't going to inspect them all up front, right? We were gonna stagger the inspections out, but you had to be registered for your rental property by a certain date.
Okay.
So we were only gonna do a few every month or a few every year, or we weren't gonna try to hit them all at once.
Well, it took us 3 years to pass this, and we're approaching a year of it being in place, and we've not done anything.
Oh, I agree.
So whatever you guys think is fair, to the community, because we've got some landlords it's going to affect a great deal, and we've got others that, that own, one or two places, so.
Affect them equally, I guess, proportionate.
So what do you guys think? 1 September?
That's fine with me.
I think it's fair.
Okay. Annexation of Harrison Hills and properties south. Really haven't made any move on that yet, other than I've been talking to some of the property owners. I've talked to Harrison's, obviously, Mr. O'Mahony that owns the property on the west side of the highway and south of where Otis is at. I don't know that he's 100% opposed, but he's trying to look at how it's going to affect him. And I told him I thought that was a fair assessment to have all the information moving forward. But like to go ahead and keep moving on that as quickly as we can. We're getting closer to the time that the solar project will be moving into that area, and there's the potential to capture some tax money from that infrastructure that's going in on the south side of town. So I want to make sure that we can do that. Moving on, McDonald Street parking issues. I don't think we actually said we were going to do that for sure.
She's got the ordinance ready here.
Already here, yeah.
The only thing that was unclear, and perhaps it was not discussed, or perhaps it was the note taker not named names, is where exactly the no parking on the west side would be, whether that was from like Jackson to Bond or Jacksonville Lithia, or so all of your no parking areas are bounded street to street, and I need to know where's to start and where's to stop.
Thought it was pretty well from Sycamore from the high school, wasn't it?
Clear to Jackson, right?
And there's already
We've already got some blocks out there. It's in the 800 block that's already, maybe the 900 block, maybe the 800 and 900 block.
Yeah,
are
I think it
both
is.
that way.
I was saying the no parking starts at Bond. I went and looked to try and figure out what
But
the
it does,
notes
but
were.
it's just a 2-block area for that's currently that way. And we've got areas north of there and areas south of
Got it.
there
Okay.
to capture. So whatever's left over.
Jackson Street to Sycamore Street, is that just doing the whole stretch?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
Pretty much just right out here to the high school.
I just have notes that said no parking McDonald Street, and I.
Well, that way it's the same the whole way.
Yeah, it's consistent all the way
Well,
through.
one thing I wanted to bring up too, while we're talking about that, is don't we want to switch College Street from being one way by the school, since elementary school is moving out to the next to the high school? Because we did that because of the daycare and the school kids being dropped off.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think we should definitely switch it back.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not needed anymore.
No.
The elementary school?
Do they have space, I haven't even asked, do they have space for them out at the new elementary school, or where are they relocating to?
That's owned by the church, if I remember right.
They're moving that
out to the
daycare up
nursing
to
home.
the old nursing home.
Okay.
And that's supposed to be done by the end of this month. So by the end of the month, they'll be out of there. Yeah, the daycare will be out of there. So we don't want to make that effective until at least the first of next month.
Do we want to include it in this for the update? No?
So this is just parking. This is a directional streets.
Got it. All right. So we add that to the next agenda, Mayor?
Okay.
Yes. And this also captures the request that no parking on Mill Street along the south side between Perry and Brady.
That's going to be permanently, or is that going to be just until the duration of the construction?
That's a permanent because of the market
Gotcha.
and everything else we're doing. And
Fair
then
enough.
get everything else. So that'll be permanent that way.
Okay.
Is this A?
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-0708 regarding the parking only on the south side of Mill Street, and specific says the intersection of Mill and Perry Street to the intersection of Brady Street and Mill Street. And then we also made the update here on it regarding the intersection of McDonald Street to go from Sycamore to Jackson.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Can
Two
you get
signed
those
copies, Scott.
street signs and stuff changed tonight, Mr. Swipe?
Absolutely. Great full all-nighter.
Oh, yeah, I'll stay with you.
Okay. Salary ordinance changes. We made a change to the salary ordinance here last month, and we didn't put a specific date on there for the police department for their change.
Can I ask a question? I know you guys are gonna hate me because I'm gonna bring this up, but what is somebody working for the summer, like just a summer helper for you, get paid?
Well, I'm trying to think what is the lowest making paid around? Where are they at right now?
Probably right
Like
around
12.
12.
Yeah, right around 12.
And what is, I'm sorry, I don't have all my notes. I'm trying to go back. What is somebody that's working park program as just a counselor getting paid? And then I want to know that. And then I also want to know now we just bumped up the lead assistant to $18.50. Is it $16.50 for the park program counselor?
16, I believe.
16?
And I think the questions you're asking is, we're getting ready to do the salary ordinance for this next year. Those will be included in this, because this is only these two specific situations that we already approved. We've already done.
Yeah, I know. I think you understand my point.
I understand your point.
Because I was a park program counselor. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
We owe you back pay.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I think this needs to be made very clear where I stand on this situation. Because I know we voted, that's fine. I got to thinking about it, and I'm not happy with the payment of this.
Well,
as a current park program counselor, it's about.
I don't mean that
I
against.
totally
Okay,
agree.
I do not mean that anything negative towards it.
But we discussed this, and
Yeah.
part of the salary ordinance that we reviewed by the mayor and council is we are having a issue obtaining qualified individuals for some of our city vacancies. And we may need some adjustments for some of Eric's crew specifically, so we've talked about that and aligning them, because I formally agree, somebody that's going out there digging ditches and using the hydro vac and excavator and everything else that they're doing, compared to, as much as I love them, park department, things like that, I think that there needs to be a difference there to where we gotta raise the bar a little bit. But I think that's for further conversations.
And
Unless,
we'll talk about that when we get into next year's budget. Okay,
So officially, I make a motion for ordinance number 2024-0708B, amending the 2024 salary ordinance. This is pertaining to specifically, which is already agreed upon, police department merit pay taking effect 1 July. And the park program lead assistant shall take effect as of the date of amendment, June 10th, and shall apply on the next payroll. So these were already approved.
Yes.
So you just needed to sign.
just, well, the dates weren't on there for the police.
It's amending the amendment.
Okay. Amending the amendment.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Eleven oh eight North Perry Street complaints. Has that gotten any further, Eric, do you know, or Mr. Police Chief?
Yeah, I wrote on it.
Can't find him. So, Mr. Redbridge?
So, just because we can't find him, does that mean that we're just gonna let the property sit there as it is? Or are we going to move and clean it up and put a lien on the property, or?
There's
What?
a procedure.
I'm being advised that there may be a procedure if we can't find somebody.
Wasn't covered up in any law enforcement.
So you can't get a hold, so there's that pesky due process requirement before you start tinkering people's property. So you have to give them notice that they won't go certified or personal service, then you have to publish it 3 times, what the nature of the complaint is, and that can take a while. So I understand it's bad, but you have to prove that you've served notice by publication, which would be the next step if nobody will accept service, before the city can do anything and lien it. So if you want to send me the property complaint, I can turn it into
We'll have a meeting.
notice.
It's 1104 and 1108.
Yeah, it's all one property, but yeah, 1108 is the other address. 1104 is where the house sat. It was torn down.
1108 belongs to Children's.
It does.
She said that last time.
I didn't change it.
Yeah, we looked it up on Beacon, so it is 1104.
Okay, I'll change it. Thank you, Denise. Radar speed signs, I know that those are here. I talked to Eric about the location of one of them today. And he's gonna go out and look for locations for the other 3. I originally, just to give everybody some background, I bought 4 of those with the intention of putting 2 of them near the ball field and then 2 up on Sycamore Street near the grade school and high school. I went out yesterday and drove around a little bit on the golf cart, and I don't really believe that putting one in the northbound lane of Perry Street out there by your house, Scott, is probably going to be that beneficial, because you've got a stop sign right there, and they're probably not going to be speeding down through there going back north. Most of the speeding takes place in the southbound lane. So when I talked to Eric today, we talked about putting the second one down further to the north in the southbound lane, and setting that one at 30 miles an hour, like maybe down by the Catholic Church or somewhere in that neighborhood, to slow traffic down as they're going out.
So you're
Perry
saying
Street. We'd have 2 of them in
You're
the
saying to
southbound lane on Perry Street.
Because they go past my house at sometimes 40, 50, 60 mile an hour from the stoplight.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going back.
Oh, yeah. No, it's that bad. And if we don't do something to deter it before the golf or the ballpark, then you're gonna miss them. And I'm telling you,
Well, we were looking. I've got where Pam Wilson lives, and she was going to allow us to put one in her front yard, going south. But I'm having trouble finding a location in the northbound lane that is not right at the stop sign. But maybe you live there. Maybe you could help with that.
I think you could even put it down by the entrance to the Bald Island, just so that it's flashing at people. People are leaving the Badlands there, kind of in La La Land. Just that,
it's
That
a
flash.
deterrent is what it
Yeah,
is.
it's that
But I,
flash to say, oh my gosh, I'm doing 30 and a 20 when they think 30 is the speed limit. I think even.
If we
in
can
that
find a
north
place on that,
okay, so where
west
you
side
kind
of
of
the road, I'm
thinking,
good with it.
where we kind of, because I mean, I have 2,000 plus videos when we had the portable down there.
Yeah.
And those things can go from that stoplight that gets ran a ton from there past my house, which is within a block. Those things will do.
It needs to be on the opposite side of the street from you, so we just need to find a clear place there where we get sunlight.
I imagine one of these is going on 41 as they come into town.
They're not, because we're looking at Sycamore Street at the high school.
Okay, they come into town pretty fast.
And
They zip
in
up
order to
my
put
house.
them on the state highway, I talked to the guy at Shadeland, said it took them a year and a half
Right.
to get approval from NDOT to put the ones that they put in Shadeland on State Road 25.
Fair enough.
It's not saying we can't,
It just
but
takes.
it's going to take some time, and I don't want to wait.
Chief, how
for these.
far are those detecting the speed?
Oh, they'll catch them from the
So,
stop
for
sign.
example, if it's down close to where my father-in-law's property is at, that would flash, because this is a deterrent. It would flash, hey, this is 20. That would be before the ballpark, and if we didn't want to all the way down.
That's why, in that northbound lane, even if it was just directly across the street from the entrance there, they're gonna be catching it prior to making it to the line of the ball diamond going northbound. So we're gonna deter that prior to them entering that area.
I can gladly go talk to some of them. I'll probably talk to everybody besides my
And
father-in-law
I've
first.
got the one on the southbound lane covered, and I think we're good there, because that's where the 20-mile-an-hour begins, is right there at her house. But across the street is the one that I'm kind of struggling with.
I'll have an update.
Okay.
for us.
Well,
I just got a text from a citizen says they need one on McDonald Street.
I believe that. I believe that. I hear that a lot, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They're only $4,000 a piece, so I could find a dozen places probably today to put more of. But right now, I'm worried about the kids at the ball field and the kids at the school. And I understand there's kids everywhere, but.
Hey, I was just sharing. I
understand.
We got the locations
I
for
understand.
Sycamore already, because we've got school that'll be back in session here before we know it, so.
I do not have a location for those yet. Eric and I talked about it, probably up by the Christian church, across from the Christian church there somewhere, for the one going east. Thank you. No, west.
Oh, you were talking about cutting down the hill.
Yes.
Oh.
And then coming back up the hill, you don't want it right at the entrance to the high school. You want it somewhere between there and Perry Street. So
And then
we'll look at it. But they're here that we don't have to, it's not really a council decision. I just want to kind of update everybody. Eric will figure out
can
where
we
to put it.
adjust the one on, what is it, 28 or whatever, coming over the hill, coming down to town? That one's adjusted time frame wise to school, right, to the 25 or
I
whatever?
think it's on all the time, isn't it?
Yes,
Does it change, or is it always,
No,
it's always 30?
always through.
Okay.
And it is 30 mile an hour through there all the time. So
I think
really
it flashes when it's school hours, but it still tells you to slow down.
It moved it. It has a note
I never
sign
see it
next to
flash
that
because I
says
never speed,
25
Chief,
and it
just so you
flashes.
know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they really going that fast in a 2-block span?
We kind of covered some of this already. Fountain County ambulance move status update. I think we talked about that earlier.
We have a meeting next
We have
Friday.
it's not a public meeting.
No.
We'll make that clear. I
Okay.
did not invite enough people to have a quorum for anything, but it's just for us to get together and go out and look at the facility with the ambulance people and one of the commissioners. Crestline Development. I know you guys have been jumping at the bit here all evening, and I apologize.
Sorry.
Present or?
Yeah.
My name is James Wilson. I'm with Crestline Development, and we're looking at developing the church parcel at 301 North 6th Street. North Street. And currently there's an alleyway that runs across, bifurcates the site, which I can go into a lot of detail why that would not be good for our redevelopment. Further, we didn't want to use the alley as access for our site, so we were looking to vacate the alley only where it crosses our site. I believe it loops through. So there's access both on the north and on the east side.
So to address Mr. Jordan's question back there, he's got the property right next door and he utilizes that alley. Would you?
Yes, my house is right next to the church, and that will block my access to my garage.
Okay, is there,
As long as that alleyway is off open, I'm good.
Is there a way to put a turnaround in instead of, and use the other side of the alley instead of bringing the alley through the side?
Yeah, and the church owns the property right across from my garage. If they would blacktop that, and it would be a turnaround, I'm okay with that.
Can you look at that?
I mean, if there's enough, so I can get access to my garage. And now,
You're coming from, let's see, not Sixth Street.
yes,
And the other street is Columbia. Yeah, so you would be coming off Columbia, right?
yes. Now, my other neighbor, Aaron, he lives like behind me. He has a mother that's in bad shape and something. So the ambulance comes up there on a regular basis up that alley. So,
From Sixth Street.
from 6th Street, yes. So, I mean,
We need to make sure there's a turnaround for ambulance.
which would be,
He did express
I
this
mean,
to
the
me
ambulance has
outside
hit
of
my
the
garage.
Karen did regarding his mother concerns.
For
So,
them to turn around,
It's
for
only
me
those
to
two.
turn around,
Yeah,
that's one thing, but for them to turn around, it's going to be different story.
Yeah, I don't know what the radius is
Yeah,
on an ambulance turn.
yeah, I mean, but, I mean, I know that this, the church is leaving, that, is the church gonna be torn down and it'll be,
Right.
and it's gonna go all the way to Summer Street?
Well, no, not quite. I mean, the building doesn't, but it goes beyond where the church is currently. And it's an elevator served building, so if you bifurcated the building, you wouldn't be able to use the elevator. That's kind of one of our problems with unless you can figure out how to do this. So finding a turnaround solution or another way to route it, that would be better for us.
If I could see plans, your plans,
Well, I mean, they're in development now.
Yeah, I assume we gotta bring them to you for permits and everything at that point.
Well, and that's our thought process, and Mr. Jordan here, and then Aaron frequently comes to our coffee house, and he expressed concerns over the alley, because he has an ailing mother, and we would want to make sure before we ever consider vacating that alley, we've got to think about, the adjoining homeowners. To see if there's a mutual agreement, obviously this is great for our community, and I know we got several things tied to that, but we want to make sure that we're neighborly to them, because it's going to change their world compared to the church and everything else,
So we're a long-term owner. This is not a property we'd sell, so we will be your neighbor, for a long time. So we would like for this to be a win-win solution for everybody.
And I believe you guys are Wingsport and here, right? Is this two different?
Correct, yeah.
The community might not know, but can you just kind of share how many apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, what you're thinking about for that property and then Wingsport, just so they kind of have an idea?
Yeah, so it should be on there, 42 units, which also included in that is 4 units across the corner that the church owns as well, where they do the parking on the gravel.
Across the street.
Caddy corner, right?
They're showing their office and daycare center on that lot.
Yeah. 42 units, and there's 42 apartments.
It is.
Yeah, and then, that's a lot of people.
It is what's considered a very small apartment complex. I agree with you. It's a nice size for what we're doing. But that's why we need support an elevator and that allows seniors to access the building. They're not all one bedroom, but the vast majority. We are complying with a bunch of different requests, so I'm not sure if we have a full unit mix.
I do, it's 14 one-bedrooms, 26 two-bedrooms, and then 2 3-bedrooms right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's, now what about parking problems?
That's the opposite side of the view. If the parking were close to you, then we could maybe connect and, figure out the route, but the parking was all on one side.
On 6th Street.
On 6th Street. Well, all right.
Did you see my note about parking along Summit Street?
I did.
Down there?
I did.
We just eliminated it.
Okay. Okay, because I knew that would work.
So real quick, just because we've been working on this, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So some of the hustle behind this is, I know this has all come up in the last 2 weeks kind of thing, and there are multiple developers that are kind of under this time crunch, but there's a tax credit available to developers until July 29th if they can secure certain funding and certain support from the city to build these apartment complexes. So at this meeting, I believe they wanted to introduce their petition for alley vacation, and I'll have a notice for that. That'll be heard for ordinance passage at your 22nd special meeting, along with a rezoning request. Tonight, there's also a request for a tax abatement, a declaratory resolution that I passed out here. This is step 1 of step of 3 for the declaratory resolution. Cindy, this relates to you. I just didn't email you today. The Redevelopment Commission has a meeting on Thursday, I believe, where they will also approve this if they feel so compelled. And so what the tax abatement is they're looking for part of this tax credit is a financial commitment from the city that they're supporting it. Instead of giving them money directly, that can be provided by way of a tax abatement. So it's a 10-year tax abatement. I believe they had initially requested a 10-year 100% abatement to meet the financial commitment needed. It's a $9.5 million investment. They did the exact same thing in Williamsport, which is why I'm really familiar with this process, because I've already done this rodeo once. And so what we have figured out is that we can actually compromise. The city doesn't necessarily need to grant a full 10-year full abatement. I realize that's a lot of tax dollars for the city. That you can split the baby and do a 5-year full abatement and then a 5-year decreasing schedule like your normal tax abatements. And that will get them qualified for their tax credit as well, while reducing the financial impact on the city, which is the schedule that I prepared, but I'm also open to suggestions if you want to do the 10-year full abatement.
Well, this has been zero tax revenue for quite some time in the church, so this is going to be great for our community. That's the first time I'd seen that layout, so that's
You mentioned a rezoning request.
There's the other developer has a rezoning request. This one just has an alley vacation and a tax abatement.
As I said, we're not
There's
rezoning.
no rezoning. No
Just wanna
rezoning
clarify
on this. We're
that.
copacetic. This one's okay. Zoning's great on this one. Did I capture that fairly?
You did, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay.
This is a unique opportunity because the state of Indiana has given away billions of dollars for housing in the last, since 1989. They have never given any money back. And it's competitive, so we have to compete, but they've written a plan specifically allowing rural towns, smaller towns to compete. We've never had this happen.
We did a housing study several years ago, and I forwarded that. I found it in Dwayne's file and forwarded that to everybody on the council so you can study that. But housing is something that we really, really need to move forward. So I think anything that we can do as a council and me as mayor, we need to try to help push that through as long as it doesn't harm other people along the way.
So as long as you can accommodate Mr. Jordan and his neighbor, I don't see any reason why.
Well, and that's why I've reviewed the tax abatement. I have no issue with that. If we're on a timeline though to vacate the alley, part of everything they've got to submit, that's my concern because I know Aaron talked to me and Mr. Jordan is here. There's concerns about that would have, something's got to happen there.
Yeah.
Before I'm going to want to vote for vacating an alley.
And that's not tonight. Just
That will hold them up on your submission for, if we don't vacate the alley tonight, does that hold you up on any submission?
We're not vacating it tonight. That'll be set for the 22nd, so we have time to get materials in.
So this would start the process. Obviously, if we have to work some things out, I believe you have to do this again on the 22nd.
Yeah.
And that's what I would ask. Just don't stop our timeline because we don't control it.
We'll send everything to you, so you can see it before.
Yeah, my wife's making me go on vacation, so I won't be.
Oh,
darn.
Make you go down to the beach this year. You poor thing.
That's her birthday.
I have a question
You want me
for
to
you.
end the divorce and we're good.
Mary Jordan. What is this housing gonna be used for? Is it lower income housing? Is it elderly housing
Chief.
or just general housing?
It is considered workforce housing. So it has some incomes and rents at some lower levels. Everybody pays rent. We specifically design ours to accommodate a wide variety of people, but we're aimed at seniors in a lot of ways. So we have elevator service. That's just, I know I keep saying that, but it's very expensive and it's a critical element to the type of housing we do. So we have elevator service, but we also have space for family amenities. We have a dog park. We have, a common room and an exercise room. We have all of those type of facilities. So this is a very nice property, but it is aimed at workforce housing. So it is designed to provide rents at a variety of levels.
Okay, I just wondered what was gonna be there.
And just to go on the record, workforce housing is not Section 8 housing, all right? This is income subsidized so that someone working at Harrison Steel that's making X can afford to live in a $1,200 to $1,500 nice place that has a lot of amenities that otherwise he would not be able to do.
But all of our tenants pay rent. We have a mortgage, so we have a lender looking over our shoulder. We have investors, private investors that are looking over our shoulder.
And you have on-site management, from
We
what I
have on-site
understand.
which is another reason why the unit count's so important, right? We want enough units that we can generate enough revenue to have a staff.
Cindy Mason.
I have a question, because the last time we did a tax abatement, we didn't go with a full 1%. It was a 70-30. And how do you guys, what do you think about that? Is that an option? Is that gonna,
We have to.
are we gonna take our gloves
No,
off? and
it
kick out?
will, because we have to achieve a certain level of local support in order to
I
trigger
understand
the
that.
state money. So what we did was, we did ask for 100% abatement, but only for the first 5 years instead of 10. And then after the next 5, it steps down by 10% a year. So
Right, I
we did what we
understand
could to make it to provide as much revenue as we could to the city. We can't go to a 70-30 model, it just won't support it.
Okay.
So,
Just so we have information when we're meeting.
yeah, they actually drove a harder bargain than most towns. Normally I get 100% for 10 years, but.
Mr. Clark, you had something?
I just would like to say, for the past 3 years, I've worked at Harrison Steel, and my primary responsibilities have been working in community, in engagement and development of hourly employees, and continually coming up against the lack of workforce housing that we have in this community. I just want to go on the record that I believe that this is the most important thing that this council can make happen for this community, is because our hourly workers in this town are out of options. There is literally hardly anything available within their price range. When you're talking, I mean, I've talked with an hourly employee at Harrison who was paying $1,300 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Williamsport. And so he was fortunate. He actually was in a position to be able to buy a house he found and pay lower amounts of money, which is usually the case if you can buy something. But most of our hourly employees, now I'm not talking machinists and maintenance people. I'm talking the majority of the people that work the regular jobs at Harrison Steel. They can't buy houses anymore, okay? And they have no options left for rental. So again, I know I'm beating the drum here.
We appreciate
but
your insight.
I'm telling you
Thank you.
that the most important thing this council can do is create workforce housing for the hourly employees of this community, because they're out of options.
Would you have any literature or anything that you could possibly send to us? Because, and I, when I say that about workforce housing, because it's gonna come to where people are not understanding the difference between Section 8 and workforce housing. And I wanna be educated, and I wanna be able to educate them, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I understand it completely and fully. So I didn't know if there's anything that you could, I don't know if they want it, I would love anything that I can be educated on and that I can share with others to support the project. I want people to stay in Attica, and I want Attica to thrive. I don't want it there. We all know there are issues in Lafayette that we don't want. And that's what, anytime anything says subsidized, that's what they think of. And it's not a pretty picture up there. That's all I'm saying.
So, Haley, here's a
I
quick
can-
translation. Go ahead.
No, I can write you something. Understand, Section 8's a federal program. This is the state of Indiana. It doesn't work in the same way. It's not the same thing, but I'm happy to write you up how we
Okay.
Section 8 housing is going to be fully funded housing that the residents inside the apartment are not required to have a job. They are federally funded for their rent. They meander about throughout the day and all parts of the night, and that's what creates the issues. Workforce housing is going to be based that you must have a job, but it's also going to be based on what you earn at an hourly rate, and then the state is going to subsidize that for them to meet those requirements to have an apartment.
Yeah.
I have one little thing to that. So in the Section 8 program, you're actually incentivized to do what you're talking about, to stay home. Because if you get a job and move up in your career, you get kicked off the program and suddenly you don't have any housing.
That makes sense too.
And
Yep.
it's a terrible situation to be in. With the tax credit program, you have to meet the income restrictions to get in. So once you're into the property, you're approved, you live there, your house is stable. You can make $1 million next year. You don't get kicked out of your housing. Your rent may go up a little bit, but you don't get kicked out of your housing. So it incentivizes people to do better, and then it doesn't force you to go the other way.
And I don't want you to think I'm against it.
No, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that I'm as educated as possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get on the internet, this is not your best friend all the time. So that's, I
We
just
try
want.
to make videos, but we haven't had very good luck. It just gets, we tend to overcomplicate it because we've been doing it so long. And then
Next time you go down 65 by 11 and Whitestown, all those new apartments are building, it's the same thing. It's just a different pay grade. Carmel's done them for 20 years. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's keep moving here. Cindy,
Yeah,
final comment.
I just want to say that Fountain County has not always been able to go after workforce housing funds. That's just happened in the last few years. And the first time the city was looking at it, Fountain County was not eligible. They are eligible now to
one
get.
year.
Yes, yes. So this is not what was presented prior. And then secondly, housing is needed, but management, on-site management is key. And if you guys can't provide that, I was in, a workforce housing development today that was pretty, but it has only been open for like 2 years. You gotta have management there, otherwise it goes down and it goes down fast. So if you guys are gonna be there,
And exactly what you're thinking, that's why we're trying to do it in Williamsport as well, because then I can hire full-time staff for both locations that can work the properties together, because really you do need close to 100 units to be able to hire that full-time staff. And we're trying to create those efficiencies, because exactly like you said, we've got about 1 year shot before all the rules change again.
Yeah.
And this is looking like a very good shot.
I got a quick question. How many stories is this gonna be? 2-story, 3-story? 2-story? 3-story.
I know, you're gonna want another ladder truck.
Hey, he gets money all the time.
Okay, that's all I have on.
Oh, no, wait, what do we need to do?
Can we pass the declaratory resolution if you guys are okay with
I
this
make the motion to
project?
pass the declaratory resolution for.
I'll second.
Crestline.
Thank you.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously passed.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I'm done now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else up here have anything? Anybody else out there have anything? One more shot. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, I asked if anybody else out there had anything. They said no.
They both got papers in their hand.
Watch that. They'll be
Mr.
quick.
Swank, do you have anything else?
Yeah, let's adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Chief Miller, do you have anything?
I second.
He seconds. Chief Little's not here. Mrs. Broadwater's not here. Do you have anything, Nikki, in place of her?
No.
Rod Bannon wasn't able to make it tonight, but he did send me a text. I'll cover that here real quick so that everybody is on the same page. He said, we're still waiting on the Indiana Landmarks grant to process on the Wega building. We can't touch the building until that's in place. We anticipate that to be completed any day now. We're applying for the LEI grant to fund the full market. We have the regional support to do so. If we're awarded, we'll know by late August. We currently anticipate a late September, early August start date on both. This should be somewhere around the time the city street project is complete. Have a motion to adjourn. Have a
Motion to
second. All in favor? Aye.
Can I have 2 copies of the declaratory?
Who seconded the motion to adjourn? You made
One
it.
thing we didn't address is when I rescue a pig, that I have the 1 month to find them a new home.
Make sure you probably let them know in the clerk's office. Somebody, that there is first, let them know they have additional pigs,
Right.
you know. So when you plan on-
Have a great week.
You
Try to keep us in the loop
You're
the
not
best
usually
we
Monday,
can.
it's like Wednesday.
Yeah, we are sympathetic to your anger.